Hi, my name is Nora Jones. Welcome to Fluency, and welcome to this episode of Language, Culture, and Bread. Now, when I was in 5th grade, I saw a loaf of bread on my kitchen table in Northern Virginia, and my dad, an immigrant from Croatia, was standing nearby, and I said to him, "Hey, Dad, how do you say bread in Croatian?" And he said, "Kruh." "Cool," I said. "Kruh. That's neat. But down deep, they know it's bread, right?" I always remember that question that I asked at that age. Quite a few years later, I was teaching a Spanish 1 class, and at my classroom door, there appeared one of my colleagues, a French colleague. I turned to her, and we carried on a conversation about something having to do with school matters in French. And when she left and I turned my gaze back on my students, I realized that every single one of them was staring at me like I was from some planet. One of the students gave me a real gift that day. He said, still staring at me, "Senora, you were really talking about stuff, weren't you?" You know, back when I was in 5th grade and that moment for those students, I realized that probably we think unconsciously that other languages are linguistic funny money. Yet, indeed, everyone has their own language, and the question is, how does it get inside? How do we learn our first language? How do we learn other languages? What do we do with our language? How do we fit into our community with our language? Do we understand that other languages are not linguistic funny money? You know, a few years after I asked that question in 5th grade, we went to Croatia. We saw my family there. I spent my summers there. I learned that kruh was not only the word for bread, but that the bread that we would go get in the morning did not look like this loaf. It was a walk down a stony path to a small bakery built inside the hillside, where the bread came out in an elongated loaf, a crunchy top, where if you got there at 4:30 in the morning, you would be one of the ones that could get the hot, immediate out of the oven breads. And you would take it home and you would eat it with coffee and goat's milk. And if you didn't eat the whole loaf that day, which you tried to do, the next day you'd have to bake it in the oven so you could put jam on it because it would already be dried out. Sovile, then. In other words, the word not only meant bread, but it meant a whole experience that was different from the loaf bread purchased at the grocery store that my mom had on the table. Because we see that language is not only about individual words, but about the cultures in which they appear. And so, here's an invitation to ponder over what words you know in your native language. Let's start with one native language today. Which native language do you have your original words in? What image do you get when you think of those words? Start with concrete words like bread, or trees, or books, or chair, or home. Then begin to think of some more abstract words like family, loyalty, love. Here's an invitation to you then. Think of those words and then think of a friend or an acquaintance, or do some research on the web, or whatever direction you'd like to go, and begin to take a look at words in someone else's language. What are the images that come with those words? What kind of environment are they found in? What kind of practices are around those words? Something simple like bread now for me has a much larger connotation because of my experiences. And not all of us can have all of those experiences around the world with different languages, but we do have access to research and to friends. So take a look and start from the concrete. Go to the more abstract. That's my invitation. Find your voice in your own language and enter the conversation with someone else about their experiences and their approaches. And then, in the next episode, we'll take a look at some additional cultural environments where words have impact on how relationships even happen. Thanks so much.